before the land reveals its shape, there is a feeling. Cool air moves gently through open space, light shifts across distant horizons, and time seems to slow without asking permission. The world feels quieter here, and not empty, but attentive. Every breath feels deliberate, as if the land itself is inviting you to arrive slowly, without expectation. This is Nepal, a country resting between the plains and the highest mountains on Earth. Nepal is shaped by altitude and patience, where ancient paths connect deep valleys to towering peaks, and where geography and belief have grown together for centuries. Here, the land moves vertically. Snow-covered summits rise above forests and rivers, hills roll into fertile valleys, and light changes with elevation. From icy ridgelines to warm lowlands, Nepal unfolds in layers, each one carrying its own rhythm, its own sense of scale, and its own quiet power. Life here follows the land, not the clock. Villages cling to hillsides, prayer flags move with the wind, and daily routines unfold with calm intention. Tradition lives in small moments, in footsteps along mountain trails, in shared silence, and in a deep respect for nature's pace. Nepal is not defined by height alone. It is defined by balance between movement and stillness, nature and humanity. This journey is not about reaching a destination, but about slowing down enough to feel the land breathe and carrying that sense of clarity long after the mountains fade from view. Before the mountains take shape, the air begins to change. Breath slow, sound thins, and the horizon feels lighter. Clouds drift closer to the ground, and silence settles in, not empty, but steady and aware. It feels like the world is preparing you, asking for patience before revealing what stands ahead. This is the Himalayas, the highest mountain range on Earth, stretching across Asia like a spine of stone and ice. Here, scale reshapes perspective, and distance is measured not in miles, but in elevation and effort. Snow-covered peaks rise in endless layers, glacier carves slowly through rock, and deep valleys disappear into shadow. Light moves deliberately across ice and stone, revealing a landscape formed by pressure, time, and relentless natural force. Along narrow trails and high passes, life continues with quiet determination. Prayer flags follow the wind, small settlements cling to the slopes, and every step is taken with intention. Survival here is not dramatic, it is patient, respectful, and deeply connected to the land. The Himalaya are not meant to be conquered. They are meant to be felt. This cinematic journey captures a place where humanity grows smaller, awareness grows wider, and the mountains remind you, without words, how vast the world truly is. As the mountains slowly recede into distance, the land begins to open and settle. The air grows warmer, heavier with moisture, and sound returns in subtle layers. What was once defined by altitude and silence now shifts into movement, into a landscape that feels alive at ground level. This is Chitwan National Park, a vast lowland wilderness in southern Nepal, where dense jungles replace icy peaks and the rhythm of life moves horizontally rather than upward. Here, nature no longer towers above you, it surrounds you. Rivers flow wide and calm through tall grass, mist lifts slowly at sunrise, and forests stretch deep and layered. Light filters through leaves instead of ice, and every corner of the land feels active, shaped by water, heat, and constant renewal. Life in Chitwan unfolds with awareness. Villages rest along the forest's edge, canoes glide quietly across rivers, and wildlife moves freely through ancient paths. Humans do not dominate this land, they adapt to it, sharing space with patience and respect. Chitwan reveals Nepal beyond the mountains. Not a place of extremes, but of balance. This cinematic passage captures a land where nature breathes openly, where movement replaces stillness, and where the journey continues, not upward, but deeper into the living world. As the lowlands slowly fade, the road begins to climb again. Warm air cools, sounds thin out, and the landscape tightens around the path. Forests grow denser, shadows deepen, and the journey turns upward, returning to a quieter, more intimate world. This is Langtang National Park, a Himalayan valley shaped by proximity. Here, the mountains don't announce themselves from afar, they arrive close, present, and constant, shaping every step of the way. Trails wind through pine and rhododendron forests before opening into wide alpine valleys. Rivers cut sharply through stone, glacier rest above the tree line, and peaks frame the sky without overwhelming it. The land feels detailed, layered, and near. Stone villages sit quietly beneath steep slopes. Prayer wheels turn, yaks move steadily across open ground, and daily life follows the rhythm of altitude and season. Survival here is calm and collective, guided by experience rather than force. Langtang is not about extremes. It is about connection. This cinematic passage captures a place where the Himalaya feel personal, where silence is shared, and where the journey becomes less about distance and more about belonging. Leaving Langtang behind, the path grows steeper and more exposed. Trees thin out, wind sharpens, and the air demands attention. The landscape opens wider, quieter, each step carrying a sense that something immense is drawing closer. This is Mount Everest, the highest point on the planet. More than a summit, Everest is a presence, anchoring the Himalaya and redefining scale, distance, and human expectation. Glaciers stretch like frozen rivers, rock and ice dominate the horizon, and light cuts clean across the terrain. Valleys feel deeper, skies feel closer, and the land moves in stark contrasts: bright snow, dark stone, endless blue. Along ancient trails, Sherpa communities move with quiet confidence. Prayer flags mark high passes, lodges stand firm against the cold, and every action is measured. Life here is shaped by knowledge, respect, and generations of living alongside the mountain. Everest is not about reaching the top. It is about standing beneath it, aware, grounded, and humbled. This cinematic passage captures a place where ambition gives way to perspective, and where the world reminds you, clearly and calmly, how small you truly are. As the high peaks begin to drift behind us, the land eases its grip. The air warms, the wind relaxes, and the silence changes character. What once felt stark and exposed becomes gentle and welcoming, guiding the journey downward without urgency. This is Helambu, a quiet highland region north of Kathmandu, where rolling hills and forested ridges bridge the world of the high Himalaya and the valleys below. Helambu feels like a pause between extremes. through bamboo groves and pine forests. Terraced fields step carefully along the slopes, and clouds drift low across ridgelines. The mountains remain present, but softened, watching from a respectful distance rather than commanding the view. Villages rest calmly along the paths, prayer walls line the trails, and daily life unfolds without haste. Farming, walking, sharing tea, everything moves in balance with the land, shaped by familiarity rather than survival. Helambu is where the journey settles. Not an ending, but a release. This cinematic passage captures Nepal's quieter voice, a place where altitude gives way to harmony, and where the road invites reflection as much as movement forward. As the gentler hills of Helambu fall away, the land gathers itself again. The air cools, the light sharpens, and the horizon rises with renewed intent. Familiar Himalayan forms return, broader, colder, and more resolute, pulling the journey back toward the heart of the high mountains. This is Sagarmatha National Park. Known locally as the forehead of the sky, Sagarmatha is a protected realm of ice, stone, and altitude, where the Himalaya are not just scenery, but sacred presence. Glaciers spill slowly through vast valleys, jagged peaks cut clean lines against deep blue skies, and wind moves freely across open passes. The landscape feels immense yet precise, every ridge, every shadow shaped by time and elevation. Sherpa villages stand firm beneath towering summits. Trails worn by generations trace ancient roots, prayer flags mark transitions in height and belief, and daily life unfolds with discipline and respect. Here, experience matters more than force. Sagarmatha is more than a destination. It is a meeting point between land and sky, effort and humility. This cinematic passage captures a place where silence carries meaning, and where the mountains teach you how to move lightly through a world far larger than yourself. As As the mountains loosen their hold, the land opens wide and settles. Altitude gives way to warmth, wind softens, and silence changes tone. What was once vast and imposing becomes calm and grounded, guiding the journey from awe toward reflection. This is Lumbini, a quiet plain in southern Nepal, known not for height or scale, but for origin. Here, a path of thought and compassion began, rooted in simplicity and stillness. Open gardens stretch beneath gentle skies. Water reflects soft light, and ancient trees stand without urgency. The landscape does not ask to be admired, it invites you to slow down and notice what remains when movement fades. Monasteries from across the world rest side by side, each carrying its own voice, color, and tradition. Footsteps are light, words are few, and faith unfolds quietly, expressed through presence rather than display. Lumbini is not an endpoint. It is a center. This cinematic passage captures a different power of Nepal, where elevation is replaced by depth, and where the journey pauses long enough for clarity to emerge. As the plains fall away and the road begins to climb once more, the world grows quieter. Vegetation thins, colors fade, and the air becomes sharp and deliberate. Each step feels heavier, more focused, as the land strips away comfort and leaves only movement, breath, and intent. This is Tilicho Lake. Resting high in the Annapurna region, Tilicho is one of the highest lakes on Earth, a destination defined by isolation, effort, and extreme altitude, far removed from roads, crowds, or noise. slopes stretch beneath towering peaks, wind moves freely across exposed ridgelines, and snow lingers even under open skies. The landscape feels raw and unfinished, shaped by altitude and weather rather than time. Then the lake appears. Cold, turquoise, and perfectly still. Glacier and clouds reflect on its surface like a fragile mirror, suspended between earth and sky. Nothing moves here, because nothing needs to. The silence feels complete, almost absolute. Tilicho is where the journey pauses. Not in comfort, but in clarity. This cinematic passage closes our path through Nepal, a land of height, depth, and balance. And as we leave this high silence behind, we carry its stillness forward until the next road rises and the next journey begins.